Hello and welcome to the American Cinema Foundation Movie Podcast. I am your host, Titus, and today I'm joined again by my good friend Sebastian Eduardo Di Giovanni to continue our long series of conversation on one of the few great artists now working, Paolo Sorrentino. The best in Italy, maybe the best in Europe simply, and just globally competitive. There are very few masters left, and so we're especially delighted in those who are left and in the fact that they're still working. Paolo Sorrentino has just made a movie called La Grazia with Tony Servillo, his great leading man. I unfortunately have not yet had the chance to see it. Sebastian has. We'll do a conversation about it soon. But we have not had yet the chance to talk about his previous movie, which came out in 2024, which is called Parthenope, the name of the siren of the legendary founding of Napoli. Sorrentino is from Naples, and recently he has returned to his home to make movies there. We have talked about one of them, The Hand of God, and so this one is a companion piece. They're both coming of age stories, and they are respectively about the young artist and the young woman, in this case, Parthenope. So they somehow go together. They were made back to back. They were both backed by Netflix, and they were both quite well regarded. Hand of God competed for the Oscar, although unfortunately did not win. Parthenope opened in Cannes and competed for the Palme d'Or, which of course it couldn't win. There was some kind of silly feminist movie to win that year. But but it's a wonderful movie and a very interesting movie about the character of beauty and about what happened to Italy and of course Europe after World War II. Parthenope, the movie, begins with the birth of Parthenope, the protagonist. She is born in 1950 in the waters of the Posillipo, the little bay, the little neighborhood, very beautiful south of Naples. And the action picks up in 1968, of course, when the girl has come of age and the modern world is all around her. It's the 60s, it's love, it's music, it's beauty, it's tourism. In fact, the movie looks like a brochure, a tourism advert for Italy, which, as anyone who has seen Italy knows, is irresistible. So it's a beautiful woman in a beautiful world at the moment when beauty was supposed to transform society. Everything was going to change because, of course, of love. And love is primarily love of beauty. But here, two incredibly strange things, but very typical of Sorrentino, show up. One of them is there's this major drama. Parthenope is the younger sister of a young man who is incredibly fragile, psychologically weak, and incestuously in love with her, and who commits suicide for that reason. And on the other hand, also in 68, coming of age, Parthenope decides to study anthropology. And this becomes the issue in the movie, that beauty has two different meanings depending on whether you think of it as subject or object. Parthenope is beautiful to look at, but beauty for her means understanding things. And of course, there's a particular way in which you look at the world when the world is lost in gazing upon you as is the appanage of the beautiful. And so Parthenope, because of this double conditioning, this strange combination of trying to study and on the other hand facing the catastrophic suicide of her older brother, she ends up being, so to speak, she ends up being the face of Italy in these terrible days from 68 through the years of lead, the anni di piombo, from crime, street revolts. The students of the 60s turn into violent savages. Things go crazy. And so that's really what the movie is about. How did it all come to this? And at the same time, she gets to see, and we, through her eyes, get to see Napoli from the high to the low, that is, from the church to the mafiosi, the Camorra in this case. That's the ambition of the movie, to show you everything there is to show, in a sense, about Napoli, and to ask at the same time, this clash of very ancient things and very modern things. What does it really look like? Why did it come to this? And now, as we come to the end of that age that started with the 60s, when love became an ideology, beauty became an ideology, if you will, that attempted and yet failed to transform the world, what have we to say, so to speak, for our humanity? And in the case of Sorrentino, what is left to say for art? This bet was made that beauty could transform the world, that the arts, through the young and the beauty of the young, could transform humanity. And the bet was lost decisively. There may be no art left, actually. What now? This is the other side of the movie, the justification for an artist. So this should suffice by way of an introduction. Sebastian, please let me turn over the conversation to you. It's been a while since we've done this conversation, so introduce yourself again to our audience and introduce the movie. You know, I heard of it even existing, first of all, from you before it was even made. So lead us in.
Hi, Titus. It's always a pleasure. Yes, it's been way too long. But I mean, me and you, we were lucky enough to have the fortune to see each other in Verona, but not speaking about Sorrentino and not in public. So I'm very happy to be here. Well, what I do has actually nothing to do with movies, unfortunately, yet. But this might be for another time. This is a story for another time. But no, I'm just, a movie aficionado, to say the least. I write mostly. That's how I sustain myself. And this movie, I'm particularly affectionate to because by some glorious circumstance, which I swear to you and your audience, I did not plan, but I just happened to go on vacation to Naples. And there were only rumors about this movie, so nothing was yet official. And I just happened to book this gorgeous, gorgeous room overlooking the sea, and in Naples, the Gulf, and I can see crew people, movie people, just working right below me. And it turns out, long story very short, it turns out they were shooting the very first scene that you see at in you know at the beginning of the movie. And I bet you, if you had a very powerful zoom in that movie, you can actually see me from the window at the very first scene. Just yeah, that was amazing, and I took it as a good omen. And yeah, so I mean, I watched the movie obviously many months later, and it's breathtaking. I mean, I don't want to go in so far as saying my favorite maybe since La Grande Bellezza, The Great Beauty, but it comes pretty close. It's all the things we love and we talk about in private as well. As you were saying, the best era of Italy, roughly from the 50s when she's born until, well, the movie actually goes until 2023 when the movie was released. But you can, apart from the breathtaking beauty of this girl, Celeste della Porta, it's just Italy at its best. Rome in the Rome or Naples in the 50s and the 60s, even the 70s, and the 80s. Then they kind of slide over the 90s. You don't see anything, and because it talks about, I should say, the journey of a young woman who explores, what life is about. It's an opus magnum. It's the quintessential journey of a intelligent and free woman who tries to discover what she's about. I mean, the name was supposed to be I discovered the human apparatus, which, if you remember, was the name of, I don't know how to translate it into English, but it was the title of the novel of Jeb Gambardella in The Great Beauty. Sorrentino wanted to give this name, the human apparatus, to this movie because she just meets so many different people over 3 decades, 4 decades of her life, that it's un universo mondo. It's a world in a universe and vice versa. But unfortunately, I mean, not unfortunately, but he hates quoting himself, so the name became Parthenope. And it's about beauty mostly, the beauty of her and and Naples. because she literally incarnates Naples, and you don't know whether to fall in love more with her and her elegance and her beauty. She's dressed by Yves Saint Laurent, by the way, who's one of the sponsors of the movie, you can tell. And it's gorgeous to look at, it gorgeous to listen to, as always. Sorrentino picks his music masterfully. And, it's almost a female version, I was saying, of Jeb Gambardella, but Jeb Gambardella starts probably in his 60s. Oh no, actually, we literally starts at the celebration of his birthday. And while we follow this woman from from birth until her 30s, and then at the end you will see a very m- mature Parthenope, telling us her conclusions about life. But obviously, I won't tell you this. So it's always inversed. One movie starts with a 60-year-old in a man in his 60s. This movie ends with a woman in her 60s. So yeah, that would be how I would introduce it. But then, ask me questions and I'll
Yeah,
try very
I
hard.
think that's exactly right. This Parthenope is the only movie that, like La Grande Bellezza, wants to say something about the altogether about the transformation of Italy and what Italy has meant to the world. It's, it's the you know again it's like what everybody dreams tourism might be, but
Mm,
the reality is never that way. But people wouldn't have these dreams if reality didn't exist. It's just not for tourists. And
yeah.
somehow only the movies, only an artist can offer you this awareness of what are you really looking for. You're never going to find it in experience. Things don't work out that way. Life is not planned to
Hmm.
put the most beautiful elements of everything together. Only a work of art can do that. And
Mm,
yet, that is what's in people's minds. In a certain way, the images, the colors, the sea, the houses, all of this Italy is instantly recognizable even now. That it still has a power over people, and this is what Sorrentino is concerned with in both The Great Beauty and Parthenope. With, as you said, these two differences. Uh, the great beauty is about a man, and in a certain way, the strength of that man is that he can look at his life unsparingly. He's growing old. He has to figure out how is he going to die, basically. That's what an old man has to figure out. But he can look at his life with a certain strength and a certain unreserved honesty or even truth telling.
mm,
He doesn't lie to himself, he doesn't lie to people. Whereas in this case, we get to see a young woman go through things, and you wonder, is she as strong as she's beautiful, or will
mm,
something that happens to her or that she does, will something break her? You don't
yeah.
know how it's going to turn out. You see her go through it. And so there's a kind of manly distance of experience and reflection in the one case, and in the other hand, a kind of female passivity, receptivity. She goes through all of these things and they happen to her. And you wonder what kind of women will Italy produce, but also what kind of burden comes to beautiful people. That you have to bear the burden of people's desires, fantasies. The entire country, in a certain way, has certain hopes, certain aspirations, certain enthusiasms, and indeed hysterias. All of these things come out of love of beauty. And since she is the most beautiful thing there is, it falls on her shoulders more. That's the gamble, and that's the thinking of Sorrentino here, and something that most artists wouldn't dare to say, but he brings it off quite well. The first couple of questions, we need this. It's a movie about Napoli, and it's to some extent for everyone because this is Italy. You get to see Capri,
Yeah.
the 70s.
John Sheep.
Who hasn't heard of that, right? The great short story writer John Cheever. On the other hand, there are all of these things about Napoli that everybody does not know, as the title Parthenope already suggests. There are myths and secrets here, and the first couple of those things are, of course, the family. Parthenope is from the Di Sangro family, and her older brother is called Raimondo. Who,
Yeah.
who is the Di Sangro family? Who is Raimondo Di Sangro?
Well, we don't know who they are in the movie, obviously. Di Sangro is a very well-known Italian name. And like most of Paolo's Sorrentino's characters, they either come from old money, elegance, and wealth. They're very fortunate for sure. So, and he's not shy about it. He says it. I understand that most of my characters have the freedom they have also because they come from these backgrounds. But in this case, it's particularly fascinating because, well, this is something I always wonder whether non-Italians catch these little nuances because it's really hard even for us if you don't study history. The godfather of the Di Sangro family is that gentleman in white, very predominant in the story. He modeled around Achille Lauro, who was this flamboyant, let's say, proto-Berlusconi politician in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. He basically was the king of Naples. So you can tell Sorrentino has a nag, has a taste for a few things. One is royalty, or aristocracy, I should say. The church. The church is always present in his movies. And a certain way of juxtaposing different worlds. So there's this lovely scene in Parthenope where, this girl, she literally is born in this villa in the sea, facing, the sea is facing literally the villa. They have a private beach. And she's born the old way. So in salt water. And for the first 20 years of her life, she lives in this incredible world. You wonder whether she even knows the real Naples, which is actually a very, or has been over the centuries and decades, a very poor city. And then she meets this, well, technically he's not a mafioso, he's a camorrista, he's a gangster. But there's this lovely scene. It's very, well, it's obviously incredibly well lit and shot, but it's also very touching where, not to, give anything away, but they have this trip around the worst part of Naples, where you can see in Parthenope's face, this obviously aristocratic young lady. She sees for the first time real people, perhaps even for the first time real suffering. And the problem is, it's so beautifully shot with the darks and the chiaroscuro, which becomes one of the best part of the movies because the movie is very bright. The sea and the sky are absolute protagonists, and the sun. You miss the summer season so much watching it, but this night scene is just amazing. And she sees suffering, the poverty. She sees criminal activity for the first time. So I love how Sorrentino most of the times plays with these different worlds. And but she's open-minded because you can also tell she comes from a very bohemian background, as gauche caviar family in Italy usually are, very bohemian, so they're free and liberated. But for example, this destroys eventually the family, having not a firm grounding, I think, because as you already mentioned, her brother commits suicide. He's too sensible. Being, being a homosexual tendency is just hinted at. And also the incestuous feelings. I don't think even it's incest. It's everything he would like to be, but he cannot. That's why just before he kills himself, he looks at John Cheever. He sees what his life might be. John Cheever is, mostly drunk and in tears. And in that moment, they look at each other. It's the only scene where they look at each other in Capri, and then he does what he does. So, these parents, although wealthy and educated and bohemians, they lack a certain strength, perhaps even in raising the children. Because even Parthenope, you know, if you want to summarize the movie, it's the story about a wonderful, gorgeous, well-educated, rich, sad woman. Because in the end, she's not led a happy life. But this is what Paolo Sorrentino does. It confronts you with all the beauty in the world, but then the protagonists are rarely happy. Jeb Gambardella is pretty much the same. And it always has to do with making peace with their homes or the past or both. It's very Jungian, or even the myth of the hero, the journey of the hero myth by Joseph Campbell. The last scene of the Grande Bellezza, he makes peace with the island, with the where he fallen in love for the first time, and this woman, when she's an adult, after 30 years living in Trento, which is basically Germany, the German part of Italy, almost comes back to Naples and makes peace with the city and thus with herself. So, again, it's the story of someone who's lost, who's been pretty much left alone because parents go into depression right after the suicide, and who needs to figure out the way to survive. And she realizes she relies everything on beauty and wit. That's the other great bit. She's witty. And here's the only thing I maybe don't like too much about this movie in particular. She's too witty.